Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Saber class. Now, this is a scout class vessel for Star Trek. We're going to get into the write up here that we have on Daystrom. Keep in mind, this is, for the most part, there's speculation, and there is a very small in yellow actual canon source. So, the Saber class was part of Starfleet's modernization program of the 2340s. They were designed to be a frigate counterpart to the Steamrunner class starship, much smaller, easier to build, and hence considerably more numerous. The designers brought in many measures to ensure that the Saber class would be easy to build, like much earlier Oberth class science vessels. The Saber's design was highly modular in nature, allowing tens of allowing 10,000-ton sections to be constructed in small shipyards before finally being assembled in a larger facility. One requirement for the Sabres to have a science and exploration capacity equal to 85% that of a steamrunner class, along with equal cruise and maximum speeds. A measure intended to allow the vessel to work together and coordinate operations. This proved an especially difficult target to meet in a hull with only two-thirds the volume of the Steamrunner. The designers were eventually forced to cut the torpedo armament of the Sabre class from the original two triple fire torpedo tubes to a single mono fire tube and reduce the load capacity from 90 to 30 torpedoes. The six Type 7 phaser arrays were at first to be reduced only to four, but event a a redirection in the ship's accommodation levels allowed a single Type 8 emitter to be worked into the leading edge of the saucer section. This brought the overall phaser power to some 91% of the initial planned phaser capacity. The completion of internal volume also forced a reduction in the size of warp core, and as a result, the Saber can only manage a top speed of warp 9.2 compared to the Steam Runner's warp 9.5. The original specifications of the Saber called for a crew of 130, but increased automation of the engineering systems allowed it to be cut to 118 and then to 102. Conditions for the crew were quite poor by the standards of the Steamrunner and Akira classes. Crew quarters average 30 square meters, and there are no holodecks. In addition, there are two personal replicator stations in crew quarters. Instead, three mess areas were provided with replicator systems for the whole crew. The Sabres have proved reasonably successful in service, although the relatively poor living conditions has led to a shorter than average mission duration. Like the larger Akira, the Steamrunner class Sabres have largely served in frontier regions, and they have been an uncommon sight in the heart of the Federation. This has changed over the last 3 years when many of the Sabre class have been relocated as near the core as part of Starfleet's build-up forces against the Dominion. Sabres or featured heavily during the recent Borg incursion. Many were many of the ships involved in the Typhoon and Earth battles were destroyed or severely damaged. So that's the write up that we have here from Daystrom. Looking at what they have here, um, we have the Saber itself, which is still active. We do have the USS Jaeger, which has been destroyed. There are 722 others that have built, and 572 have been lost in all. Now, the class remains in service, but has been constructed between 2343 and 2368. We do have a length of 190 meters, a beam of 250 meters, height of 41 meters, and roughly about 11 decks. Has a mass of 310,000 metric tons. We're looking at actually a crew of 40 with a 200-person evacuation limit. We have one Type 8 phaser bank, four Type 7 phaser arrays, two standard photon torpedo tubes with 30 rounds total. Let's see, our standard shield system with a total capacity of 189,000 terajoules, a standard duranium single hull, standard level structural integrity field. Our normal warp cruise is going to be a 6, a maximum warp cruise is going to be a 9.3, and a maximum rating is a 9.7. Going through the beam firepower that they use here on Daystrom, the beam firepower is an 80, the torpedo firepower is a 250, our weapon range and accuracy is 195, our shield strength is 70, hull armor is 10, our speed is 1067, and our total combat maneuverability is 7,080. Let's see, we have a diplomatic capability of a 2. The expected hull life is going to be about 80 years, with a minor and standard refit being about yearly, and a major refit being about every 20 years. That's what we have for a lot of speculation here on Daystrom. We have backstage source, which is what our green is. So our backstage is seeing a crew of 40. I want to see in some of the books we have it about 50. So that's not that far off. Let's get into the stats from D6 Holocron. Okay, so now we're going to have a write up on this one as well. Let's see what D6 Holocron gave us for a write up before we get into our stats here. So the Saber class, or alternatively the Saber class, was a type of Federation starship, a light cruiser in Starfleet service in the late 24th century. History and specifications tells us that one of the smaller starship designs in service, the Saber had a crew complement of approximately 40 people with a maximum evacuation limit of 200. So this does coincide with what Daystrom had. DS9 reference, Star Trek Deep Space Nine technical manual is where all that information comes from. This is produced at Starbase 1 in orbit around Earth. The Saber class was another project that began after the Federation made its disastrous first contact with the Borg. Let's see, 4 Saber class vessels were assigned to the Starfleet Corps of Engineers in the year 2370. Many Saber class vessels fought in the Dominion War, and this is all coming from Memory Alpha, Memory Beta, Ship Recognition Manual Volume 1, and the Demon Apostle. So, looking at what we have here, as I have mentioned so many other times, I prefer smaller ships myself, this being one of them. It does add a little bit of making for role playing sense, making the characters themselves actually do a little bit more work instead of saying, hey, we can just have a group of people beam down and do the work for us. So it helps me keep everyone at the table engaged. Now, they have this listed as a cruiser. It is capital scale, which does make sense. Now, we have a length of 172.77 meters. So that is different. I think it was, 190 meters long, and it was, 230 wide, and now they have it at 174 wide and 43 meters tall. Ship mass is 227,000 metric tons, and I believe Daystrom had it at about 310,000. So, I mean, slight discrepancies between the two of them. These are minor things. We do have this at a ship size 5. We have an autopilot of 3D plus 1, crew of 40, skeleton of 4. So this would be a wonderful ship if you have a small group, seeing that they're running it as a skeleton crew, and just having that, they're stuck on the ship for whatever the reason. It would work out really well. It would make things interesting. We have the availability for 15 passengers. Cargo capacity is 33,000 metric tons. We have enough consumables for 3 years. We have a warp drive of 6 for standard, 9.2 for our maximum, and it's rated for a 9.7 for 12 hours. So I believe this coincides very well with what Daystrom has. Of course, we're going to have a nav computer. Maneuverability is going to be a 2D plus 2. Space speed is a 9. Hull strength is a 3D. Shields is a 1D plus 2. Our sensors here, we have passive sensors that can scan out to about 4 kilometers at a 1D plus 1 bonus. Actively, we can scan out to 12 kilometers at a 2D bonus. We can do an active search out to 15 kilometers at a 3D bonus, and a focus out to 500 meters at a 3D plus 2 bonus. All right, so looking at our weapons, we have 4 Type 10 phaser arrays. So this does differ from what we have listed from Daystrom. Let's see. I'm not going to cover all. I mean, essentially, we cover everything going around. We have a fire rate of 3, fire control of 2D plus or 2D. So we have 3 shots per round at a damage of 4D. We do have 2 photon torpedo launchers with a fire control of 2D plus 2. Has listed here ammunition of 100 for Type 2 photon torpedoes. Now, there's that differential between what was listed and what we have here. It is slightly different, however you want to do it. If you want to limit them down to being only 30 photon torpedoes, that would be fine. If you want to leave it at 100, that's fine too. Has a spread of 10. That means that we can shoot 10 torpedoes at one round, doing 4D damage. That does get to be quite a little bit of an ouch there to really think about it in those regards. We have 2 Class Delta tractor beams, one forward, one aft. Gives us that ability to tow ships. We have a fire control of 2D and a strength of 4D plus 2. All right, we do have the Class Alpha tractor beam for our shuttle bay, trying to get our shuttlecraft on board. Fire control is a 1D plus 1 and a strength of 3D. Now, our crew quarters. We have basic crew quarters for 35, expanded for 10, 5 luxury. That gives us that little bit of diplomatic capability, as well as your captain, first officer, and possibly one other person having uh, some nicer quarters. We do have 8 decks listed here compared to Daystrom's 11 decks. We have 140 escape pods for the capacity of 4 personnel in each, which I think is a little on the high side, but it is what it is. Transporters, we have 2 transporter rooms with the capability of transporting 6 persons on each transporter. We have 2 emergency transporters that can transport 18 personnel on each transport, and 2 cargo transporters which can transport 400 kilograms each. Our shuttle complement, we have room for 5 shuttlecraft and 2 shuttle pods. There are 60 probes on board, and there is listed a captain's yacht. So I don't know where the captain's yacht is to be staged on here. Um, Seeing that we're looking at the underbelly here, I don't know exactly where that's going to be. There again, looking at the detail here, whoever had done this, I think it's what Drex. Um, you know, he's done a very nice job. Now, where the captain's yacht would be located on this, I really don't know. Being a completely different style of design here, we don't really understand if this is going to be something that's going to be on top on the top side or dorsal of the ship, or what the case might be. It could almost be, staged anywhere as far as that goes. So, um, I mean, seeing that most of the ships that we've seen with a captain's yacht, typically it's under the saucer, but seeing that this has been a newer design where the saucer and engineering hull are more combined into one, which I am kind of in favor of, but it does kind of raise the question: where would we put a captain's yacht on that then? Um, Hard to say, but the fact that we're looking at it in a game terms, um, anything is possible, and it really becomes immaterial exactly where it is, unless you're landed on the ground and you have to sneak underneath it or something. In those regards, yes, it would be something you really need to know about, but outside of that, I really don't know what to say. All right. So that gives us our Saber class. It is a fun ship. Really looking at it, it looks like it could be a fun ship. A nice alternative to seeing, everyone's flying around in a Defiant class, um, where this has got a little bit of a science bay to it, where I know that we see them doing some science work on the Defiant, but it really was not designed for that. So keeping that all in mind. But it is what it is. It's it is very nice seeing that they've got listed here as a skeleton of 4 with a +10. I think it's something that could very easily be done. So, with that, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for visiting. It's always wonderful having you here. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.